Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Grimes from Lebanon Valley. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I've had the pleasure of talking to the women's coach. They're probably a couple doors down from you, but always good to be able to cover both programs at a university. And um, you got a nice program there in Pennsylvania. And I guess I was looking at your bio. You've been there just a few years, it seems. I think what was it, 18, something like that?
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Just look at
yeah.
the gray hairs and you get an idea how long.
Well, and you were an assistant there before you got the head job, and I think folks might know the name of the head coach that you were an assistant under. Is that right?
Yeah, I think most people do. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was a great opportunity to learn and be mentored by Mark, and we're still good friends, to this day. So, uh,
Well, and for those who haven't checked out your bio, the Mark that he is referencing is the father to Captain America himself, Christian Pulisic, right?
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's awesome stuff. Well, let's dive into your program and what you got going there. So it's January as we're talking, and the heat of showcase season is upon us. So are you guys still wrapping up your 2023 class, or you've moved on to 24s? What does that kind of look like for you in terms of timing?
Yeah. So for us, we are basically finished with our 2023 class. There are a couple players that I'm waiting to hear back from on final decisions that we've offered spots to. But either way, we're really in a good position with our recruiting class for the fall, and our roster is pretty much set at this point. So my assistant coaches, I have to admit, it's not me. It's everybody working together, and they do a great job. Tim Mel, Andrew Rudensky, Dan Haynes, they help me a ton with everything that we do within our program, and we're in a really good position, with our recruiting process, and we've started to look at 24s now. Although it'll be interesting because our roster in the fall, we still have the potential of using the COVID year for some of our seniors next year, and as of now, majority of them do want to return. So we may not be able to bring in too many the following year. So we'll have to be very selective, I think.
Yeah, I know that everybody I've talked to, that whole COVID year thing has just really kind of put everything in flux from a year to year basis. So I can completely understand that. Well, do you have a kind of a list of tournaments that you make sure you get to each year to do your recruiting, or how does that look for you guys?
Yeah, to be honest, we've gotten a lot more selective over the years with what we go to. So Tim Mel has been with me for the entire time that I've been the head coach here. He played for me 4 years and has now been my assistant coach for, I guess that would make it 14 seasons. And he is basically our recruiting coordinator and handles a lot of the initial work there, figuring out what tournaments are best for us to go to, making connections with DOCs and clubs. So the combination of him deciding what's going to be best for us to attend. We run 2 to 3 ID clinics here on campus throughout the year. We found those to be very beneficial as well, and the majority of our recruiting classes will have players that have attended our ID clinics. So it just gives us an opportunity to work with players on our campus, and be able to see them in our environment using our methods. It's been very beneficial for us. So I would say, we go to some of the major showcases around the Mid-Atlantic region, obviously, but I would say not as many as we used to, maybe 10, 12 years ago, just because we've gotten to a point where I think just our process is much smoother, and we're able to be more selective with what we attend.
Okay. Well, and you mentioned the camps and kind of, I guess, focusing more on that Mid-Atlantic region. Um, One of the questions that always comes up around college soccer is how important is the alphabet soup, right? The MLS Next versus ECNL versus ECNLR and EDP, and
Sure.
the list goes on, right? So how much stock do you guys put into that, and or does that affect where you go to look at players, or anything else like that?
I mean, it certainly plays a part, but for me personally, we're just trying to find the right guys for our program. And so whether someone's MLS Next, ECNL, or something else, if they're the right fit for us, then they're the right fit. And if they're not the right fit, they're not. So we're more looking at obviously who they are as a player and whether they would fit our style of play and what we're looking for in terms of the types of players we want to bring in, but also academically, that's obviously something we're looking at right away. Do they fit the academic profile for Lebanon Valley? Do we have the major that they're looking for? What's the return on investment for them academically? And the third piece for us that's just as important is the culture or character piece. We want guys that are going to add value to our program, and so we don't want to compromise in any of those areas. So we could have an MLS Next player who's phenomenal, but if they don't check off the boxes academically and character wise, then we're probably not going to be interested in them. So for us, yeah, I would say those letters are not as important as it probably is to some other people because again, I rely on our coaching staff. I think we do a good job of being able to go and watch players and identify on the field players who are able to fit into our style of play and are the types of players we're looking for. And to me, that's not really a matter of what league they're playing in.
Okay. Well, how would a player who might be interested in your school kind of get that ball rolling?
Yeah.
Uh,
So the first thing is obviously there's different ways we get in touch with players. Some players reach out to us first. Some are recommended by coaches that we have connections with. Some are recommended by players. But then we'll also, when we're out watching players, we may be there to watch certain players in a game and we notice someone else on the field and maybe we make the first contact. But basically, the way the process will work is we want players to be able to fill out our questionnaire so we have their information on file. We can check out their academic profile, just kind of have an idea who they are as a person, as a player, as a student. From there, we want them to visit campus, be able to see what the LVC campus has to offer, learn more about not only our program, but the campus and their major. And we'll invite them to our ID clinics if they haven't already attended, because again, like I said earlier, that's a really effective way for us to evaluate players and for them as well to get to know us and see, what I'm like and my staff, what we're like in a training environment. So I think the combination of all that's really important. So for us, we're trying to get that done as much as possible junior year, going into fall of their senior year, and so that we can begin to make decisions during that senior year fall time period. Now, exactly when, ideally we like to be done around November, December, but there are instances where we go into January of a player's senior year before we're finalizing things.
okay. Well, in terms of the school, you mentioned return on investment, which I think is a great way to put it, and I think a lot of parents and players, would help them to look at it through that lens.
Right.
Um, so I'm not holding you to hard numbers here, but can
Yeah.
you just give me a rough idea of what that financial commitment looks like in terms of, what are the costs that go into it, what kind of financial aid opportunities are available, et cetera, specifically for Lebanon Valley?
Sure. So the first thing I like to tell people when we talk about return on investment is, LVC has been ranked #1 in the state of Pennsylvania for all colleges and universities for 4 going on 5 years for job placement. So at the end of your college experience, majority, if not all of our players are not going on to play professional soccer. So therefore, we want to help them go on to whatever they are going to go professional in, and we want them to be able to line up a job that they'll enjoy, that will pay them well. And LVC's proven to be, second to none in terms of being able to do that. And so I think that's where we start when we say return on investment: the time, the effort, the money that a student athlete is investing to be here. They're going to get a great return on that in terms of job placement, and not only having a full-time job, but a job that's going to pay them well and start them out, in a really good position in terms of their career. So the initial sticker price sometimes can be a little scary for people. But I think at the end of the day, after you factor in the merit-based academic scholarships that we offer, grants that are offered, departmental grants, visit grants, things like that, I think at the end of the day, the final cost for a lot of student athletes to attend LVC is pretty comparable to other institutions out there. So we always encourage people to not panic at the initial sticker price, but to let the process play out and to look at what the final cost is going to be. And oftentimes people are pleasantly surprised by that. Now, again, we can't guarantee that we'll be equal to or less than certain competitors, but at the end of the day, what we can promise our players is that we're going to, invest in them within our program. We're going to invest in them as a person and as a player. And we can also tell them that, the return on investment that they're going to get from LVC as an institution, the data that's out there, speaks volumes for that. And as I mentioned, not only being number one in Pennsylvania, but LVC has been number 4, number 5 nationally for job placement as well. So among all colleges and universities, that's a pretty significant statistic.
Yeah, it's very impressive. And like I said, you've been there for a number of years, so you've got some incredible insight. So besides the amazing job placement record, give me some things that make Lebanon Valley a great place to be that maybe I'm not going to find just by going through the website.
Sure. I mean, I think the people that are in this community and on this campus are definitely a huge part of what makes it special. You'll find a very welcoming campus. You'll find a campus where you're going to, get a very personal touch. People are going to know who you are. They're going to want to know who you are, and they're going to continue to want to see that you're doing well. So they'll check in on you. So in a good way, and maybe for some people this is a bad thing, you can't hide here, right? So you're not going to be a number or a statistic. People are going to know you on a personal level. It's a great area, South Central Pennsylvania. We're not far from big cities, but it definitely is a rural area. For me, I grew up around here, so I'm used to this, and I like this type of a setting. For people that are used to or looking for more of a city, I would say, and I always tell people this, when you're on campus, you're not going to know the difference. But, in terms of a safe, friendly community, I don't think you'll find a better place. And again, we're not far from whether it's Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., et cetera. It really is a pretty easy, commute to get to any of those places. So for someone that wants to leave campus and find a bigger city, they're able to do that as well.
Yeah, and you're right, pretty much right next to the state capitol as well. So you
Correct.
got that going for you. Um, in terms of the academic side of things, what when you're a college athlete, especially a new college athlete, that can be some of the most challenging things is balancing the commitments between your sport and your studies. So how do your players do that? What kind of support systems does the school have in place to help student athletes?
Sure. Great question. So I guess the number one thing for me is we have to make sure we get things right in our recruiting process. And what I mean by that is, we want to bring in student athletes that want to be here academically, students that want to go to class, that want to do well in their work, that want to achieve a high academic standing. So if we have players that don't want to do that, then I would first question where we went wrong or what we missed during the recruiting process. Now, it doesn't mean that players don't need support and help at times. They do. But for the most part, the players that we're bringing in, they have high academic standards for themselves, and they don't need to be pushed an awful lot to want to achieve, the grades that they get. The college does a great job. They do have a tremendous, series of resources on campus, from tutoring and study pods, et cetera, to help those students that need extra help. And we try to do that within our team, especially, first semester freshmen. We will offer some study halls within our team where our upperclassmen will kind of help those players acclimate to, college life, because it is different. And even if you're a really good student in high school, whether it's on the field, soccer, or off the field academically, there are adjustments that need to be made. And so we try to help our players do that. But again, I go back to the very first thing I mentioned, and that is we want to bring in the right players, the right people. And in doing so, that means good students who, want to go to class and want to do well academically.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Well, let's take it back a little bit to the fall, and kind of it being in season. Can
Sure.
you kind of walk me through what an average week for a player would look like in terms of, when are they getting up, going to class, meals, practice, which the game cadence, that kind of thing. What does that look like for a player during the season?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we have guys in various majors. So, depending on that, their schedules are different. And one of the interesting things from our end, logistically, is actually finding time when we can have our whole team together. Because it may be hard to believe, but that's a definite challenge, depending on the day of the week. But a typical schedule would be that players are going to class. Our team spends a lot of time together, so they eat majority of their meals together. They spend a lot of time together off the field as well. Training for us is typically 3:30 or 4 o'clock start in the afternoon. That can fluctuate depending on schedules. If we need to adjust, we will. And a typical game schedule for us is play midweek, whether that's Wednesday or sometimes a Tuesday game, and then again on Saturday. So Sunday's our day off on a weekly basis. And so guys get into a nice rhythm. And I found that personally, our players find it easier to manage their time and to stay on top of things during our season because the season itself kind of frames the time that they need to study and spend on schoolwork for them. Whereas in the spring semester, when they have a bit more free time, it requires a bit more discipline on their part to be able to create that study period. So, yeah, I mean, our guys, when we get into the fall season, it really is just I think a well-oiled machine in that guys are used to class, come to training, eat together, go to the library, study, do their schoolwork, go to bed, get up the next day, do the same thing. And we try to mix it up to make it obviously fun. So throughout the week, it's, a little bit not always super serious. We want to have fun, but we want to define fun in a way that works for us. And so it is fun for us is taking things seriously, but also, smiling, laughing, making sure that we're enjoying the process along the way.
No, that's great. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the soccer side of things. And you mentioned your staff. We'll talk about them a little bit more in a second. But is there a roster size that you find is ideal that you like to try to hit every year?
Yeah, I would say it's not an exact number, but for me, somewhere in the mid to upper 20s. I would say maximum 30, but generally, if someone would go back and look at our rosters over the years, we're generally in the mid to upper 30s. So that's 3 to 4 goalkeepers and, maybe 24, 25 field players. Again, it's not a hard number that we would never fluctuate, a couple spots either way. But I personally like to have a roster size where each player on our roster has a genuine chance to see time on the field. It doesn't guarantee that a player is going to play. It doesn't guarantee, obviously, that a player is going to start. But if the roster size gets to be too large, I think it pretty much does guarantee that certain players are never going to play. And so for us, we've liked to keep it within a framework where we feel it allows us to create training sessions that are most effective and efficient, but also, again, give our players the opportunity, if they are playing well and they're performing well and they have a positive attitude, they will be given opportunities to get on the field. And so we've done that. I think if anyone looks again at our box scores, oftentimes over the years we will play 20, 21 field players in a match. So again, maybe not everybody, but we are definitely utilizing the majority of our roster from game to game. But it is still based on performance. So, if someone's not playing well, they're not, going to be guaranteed minutes just because. It all comes down to performance, and we're trying to constantly help our players improve and grow, both on and off the field. But for us, again, the roster size, I think, allows us to give everybody a legitimate shot at doing that.
No, I think that's a great way to look at it. And I know you said before your staff contributes a lot to the program. So if you can just walk me through, how big is your staff and what roles kind of does everybody play?
Yeah, so 3 assistant coaches. So Tim Mell, our recruiting coordinator, helps with other things as well, but that's one of his key main roles, and does a great job. Just, understands the recruiting process well, having played for me and been with me my entire career here. In essence, he knows me and this program better than anyone else, and so I can rely on him without hesitation when it comes to any facet of the program, but especially with recruiting and finding, again, players, student athletes that are the right fit for us. He does a great job. Andrew Radensky, another former player of mine. Both he and Tim were goalkeepers for me. Andrew joined us on staff a few years ago now, and is mainly our goalkeeper coach. Helps us with the recruiting process with goalkeepers. Does a great job giving our current goalkeepers daily, specific goalkeeper training, and just an experience that makes them feel special. Again, helps out with other facets of the program, but that's his main role. And then Dan Haynes, who joined our staff about 4 or 5 years ago, really has been a great addition to our staff. Helps us with our social media with his backgrounds. Helps with recruiting. Helps with leadership training and development, and then also really does a great job helping our players, with resume creation, editing, helping prepare them for job interviews, and again, what life is going to look like beyond the LVC community. So I love our staff. These guys, it's a really, really fun staff to be around. I mean, we laugh a lot together. We're all on the same page in terms of, the vision and the identity that we have for the program. These guys do a great job of supporting me and supporting our players, but they're also extremely competent. And without hesitation, I can ask them to do anything. I don't need to check up on them because I know they're going to do the job well and do what needs to get done. So I feel like our players are really fortunate to have a staff where it's not just me, but these other guys that are really strong, and we each have different strengths. So I think that's another beautiful thing about our staff is we complement each other well. I can be pretty intense at times as the head coach, and so these guys will complement at the right time to just put a smile and a laugh in the room when it's needed.
It's always a good thing. Sometimes you got to have that good cop, bad cop when it comes
That's
to
right.
to a coaching staff. Well, Coach, you've been really generous with your time. We've covered a lot of things, and I always like to end these with the same thing, and that's what didn't we cover? What else do you want people to know, whether it's about the college recruiting process, your school, or anything else in general? I'll leave you with the last word.
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I think we covered all of the main things I think related to LVC and the college soccer. But for me, it's just being in this position and being able to be part of a game that I love, sport that I love, and at the same time being able to use that as a vehicle to positively impact young people. Being able to work with, as I said, with my staff, with guys that I really get along with well and enjoy their company. Our players are tremendous over the years. I've said this many times, but I feel like our players just are really special people, not just players. And it's just such a blessing to be in this position and be able to do what I do, be able to work with the people that I work with. Lebanon Valley's a great university campus. It's a tremendous place to be. I love the coaches that I get to work with here, the administration, my athletic director, very supportive of everything that we do. And it's just, as I said earlier, a really personal, fun place to work where, you get to know everybody on a deep level. So for me, it's a job, but I don't ever wake up thinking, oh man, I got to go to work today. It's fun and exciting to be able to come to work and do what I do. So anyone that's interested in Lebanon Valley College, I would encourage them to reach out. They can contact me directly, or we'll get Coach Mel, our recruiting coordinator, in touch with them. But they would fill out a questionnaire, maybe look at attending one of our ID clinics, and then certainly from there we'd continue the process. So, but thanks for having me today. It was a pleasure to be on here, and appreciate the time.
Yeah, and we appreciate you, Coach. Wish you the best of luck with this off season and the upcoming fall season, and we'll keep an eye on you guys and see how you're doing, and maybe have a follow up here in a bit and see how everything went.
Sounds good. Thanks,
All
man.
right, take care.